So you did talk about moving back to San Luis Obispo. So if there was a dream location for a studio or a dream setup for your art studio, tell me what that would look like, or what would that be?
Yeah, since it's a dream, I can say something that's maybe impossible, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like I really am always just like when I lived in the city, I mean in a city. I didn't live in San Francisco, but uh, not the city, you know. When I lived in an urban area, whether that was Oakland or Portland or wherever, I was always like, if only I could live in some like beautiful forest somewhere. And then I lived in a beautiful place in Vermont, and then I live in a beautiful place here in San Luis Obispo that are less urban. And I'm like, oh, I wish I was in the city, right?
Yeah,
So if we could have like an awesome like compound that was like surrounded by beautiful nature, but like easy commute to like a city center, and had like lots of like space for other artists to hang out, you know. I feel like
nice,
that's always the dream. Yeah, like if you had like people could do residencies and come in and out, and you could have different people hanging out, you know,
nice.
because I just want people to draw with.
No, no, that's fair. That's totally how I feel too. It's so funny. A similar thinking, like, oh, if I built a house, would I want other studios for other people to come do their art? That's so funny. Because we do spend our time in a silo away and alone.
Yeah, and
So,
I think some people that's what they love about it, and I can understand that too. And like, you know, like sometimes I think maybe I'm more introverted than I think I am because I am choosing to have a life where I'm mostly by myself drawing all day. But I like talking to people like this, you know, and if you could just casually have that while also having some of the other advantages would be pretty rad.
no, that sounds exciting to me too, especially the nature park where you can just drive and go into the
Yeah.
city. And speaking of that, do you have a morning routine or daily practice that you do, some daily ritual?
I think my big personal life hack, which I would probably not recommend to everybody, but like when I'm really working on a comic, because yeah, there's kind of like variance in how much my day is actually making a comic. But like when I was like working my graphic novel and had, you know, trying to get pages done every day, I basically would try to make the time between me like becoming conscious in the morning and starting to draw as short as possible. Because it's just so easy when you're making your own schedule to be like, well, all right, I guess I should take a shower. There's the dishes from last night. Oh, the cat wants to go out. You know, I really should stretch my legs, go for a walk. Oh, I could probably have another cup of coffee, and then
Right.
it's 3 p.m. and you didn't do anything. So basically I would just start drawing until something else is like too much to ignore. You know, okay, now I feel dirty and it's noon and I'm still in PJs. Now it's time to look
Right.
presentable. But I already have a page drawn because I was working
Right.
all morning, you know, like you just have to keep the momentum going somehow. Um, and then the other thing is for me personally, this is something I like living here, though I would do it everywhere. Is like you got to get outside at some point, touch grass, as they say. You know,
Yeah.
when I lived in Vermont, there was a day when it was like I don't know, 20 below, 15 below, something like that. It was so cold that like the headlights in the car wouldn't work right or
Ooh.
something. And I like invented an errand so I could still be outside because there's like if I have no reason, I'm just gonna like take one step outside and go back in. But if I have like a reason, I'll at least like I walked like half a mile just to be like I was outside today and now I feel terrible because it was, you know, so cold. But
Freezing.
I did
Oh,
it by God.
wow. Wow. And do you think that shoot, I lost my train of thought. Oh, do you think you work better with if you have a hard deadline versus if they say, ah, just get it done whenever?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's good to also it's also good to have some flexibility with deadlines, but you need some kind of pressure, at least I do, or it's going to be hard for me.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is like the other thing that's so weird about like the and I was like a tweet or something. I wish I should learn who said it so I can credit them. But someone said like, do what you love and you'll have terrible work-life balance and lose your mind. And it is kind of like I think one of the things that's weird for me now is like, okay, if my job is making comics, then there's comics that I've always wanted to do. It's harder to find the time to do them, you know,
Yeah.
because I want to do something that's not making comics sometimes in my life, right? So yeah, I don't it I feel like it's harder for me to get things done without the external pressure now than it used to be. So I get more done, but also that's a different challenge.
Huh, interesting segue too. Is there one creative endeavor that you want to do but maybe haven't tried? Like maybe photography or dance or even I don't know, acting or just something creative that like you said, I want to make room for other things, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily.
I've kind of so when I was younger, as I mentioned, I started making comics when I was like 9, right? And I really just have continually done them since then to the point where I'll like talk to someone I haven't talked to in 20 years and they'll be like, "What are you up to?" I'm like, "Oh, I just finished this graphic novel." And they're just like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I knew you in fourth grade. That checks out, you know." Um, but I would kind of go back and forth between trying to do comics and trying to do movies as a kid.
Hmm.
So I would like I basically like do one until I got too discouraged and then switch to the other one for a while.
Okay.
And then I went to film school because there wasn't I guess I could have gone to SCAD in Georgia, but that was the only comics program I knew about anyway. So
Mm,
I went to UC Santa Cruz for film. And so like when I lived in the Bay Area, I worked as a video editor. Um, but I stopped doing film like for just like self-expression and creativity after college, basically.
hmm.
And support, I think especially because in the graphic novel I just finished, the characters are making a movie. Now I am just like, man, I want to make a movie though. Um,
Do you have any
so
of the equipment? Do you have any cameras or, you know?
not really. I've got some stuff, but I probably have to borrow or rent most of it to do something like really good, you know. But
It's yeah, it's fairly
yeah,
expensive.
yeah, and it is it's funny because it's cheaper than it's ever been, but it still ain't cheap, you know? Like it's a lot easier now than it was even when I was in college. But yeah, you still want if you I could you need the camera, you need lights, you need a place to shoot, whatever. So I think a short film is something I could pull off relatively soon if I manage to find the time. But I'd say my bucket list thing, like I finally I made a graphic novel that is out from a publisher. If I could also have like a feature film someday. I've taken
Nice.
no steps to make this happen, but I guess if I'm 80 years old and looking back, that would be a goal.
What would it be about? Do you have anything in mind? What?
You know, short answer, no. I have a lot of just like stories in my head that I was like always like trying to find the way to crack and then the medium to express them in. So like some of those stories, like saying some of the comics I was selling at SF Zine Fest when we met, I'm like I never finished that story. Do I finish it as a graphic novel one day or do I finish it as a film, you know? I don't know. Maybe
Huh.
maybe the opportunity will come.
So that's another good segue. So do you have any particular filmmakers or movies that that's right up my alley?
That's a good question. Um, hmm. It's such a reasonable question though. Like, what's the good? Let's see. What have I been watching? I finally I feel like I finally sort of like come to appreciate David Lynch because
Hmm.
when I was in film school, I all the like edgy boys were into David Lynch because they liked like the disconcerting parts of Blue Velvet, and I was like, it's all right. And then I think over the years I've kind of like embraced the weirdness of that while also um like the kind of combination of like sweetness and harshness to it is
Right.
really interesting. What have I been watching? I've been getting into animation more too, and sort of like learning to appreciate some of the nuances of that. So I've just been watching a lot of Satoshi Kon, the anime director.
And
Um,
I think anime is so big right now. But animation is a whole nother beast.
yeah,
Would you ever do make like animated film or would
yeah,
you?
yeah. That's it's. I've been sort of teaching myself to animate, which has been my like. If only there was a medium that was like more tedious than comics, you know. And I feel like it's like tedious. Like I don't mean tedious in a bad way, but I feel like that's sort of part of the fun of it to me is that you're like really being like, okay, if someone's going like that. how does their hand move? How does their head move in reaction to their hand? There's something like really
Okay.
beautiful and fascinating about that. And I don't feel like I'm great at it, but I mean, I'm definitely not great at it, but I'm interested in trying to crack it, you know. I made a little animated teaser for my book that I think will be online soon.
Oh, cool. That
Um,
stuff is so hard. I mean, I can't even imagine uh just even attempting to do that.
yeah, it's I got the program Procreate Dreams, which is interesting because I feel like if I were already an animation professional, I would not like it probably because
Mm.
it's got such a specific idiosyncratic kind of user interface. But as someone who hasn't done animation before, it's just designed for you to feel like you're like inside the matrix of it, you know?
Nice. No, I've been watching Atypical, which is a show on Netflix
Yeah.
about a guy, young guy in high school who is on the spectrum.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm so like stuck on this TV show. I actually stopped watching for a little while because it's really heartfelt and like emotional. But it's such a good. I was trying to look it up while I was talking to you. I see the director, but I don't know who or the
Hmm.
writer. I can't see the director, but yeah, it's called Atypical. It's on Netflix. It is so good, and it's just kind of almost like some of the comics I really like. It's just a slice of life, and you're just viewing the family dynamic as they go through all their day-to-day
Yeah.
stuff. Because he has a sister, and his parents are breaking up and going back together,
Okay.
and how he navigates the world or views the world. Um, and I haven't done a lot of autobiographical, how do you say that? Autobiographical.
Autobiographical. Yeah.
Haven't done a lot of that, but I do sort of touch on personal stuff. I'm doing a mini comic about sleep apnea, and it's
Right. Yeah.
weird to be as vulnerable as I
Yeah.
am in that kind of stuff because I just started doing that maybe right after the pandemic because Lawrence Lindell, I know you know him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like he really influenced me to sort of open up and talk about things that were personal. So I'm
Cool.
slowly talking about stuff like that and mental health, anxiety, depression, because I'm doing a graphic novel about grief as well. That's even more difficult, but just
Yeah.
something that I'm literally just going through right now is wearing a sleep mask at night and all the weird stuff that happens. And so
Yeah.
when you think about filmmaking, it's so much, it seems like it's so much more personal, but I think writing cartoons and comics also has that interesting intersection, right? Of when you're talking about your personal life, that maybe I feel like animation or movies kind of you take a step back a little bit, and there's
Mm.
that what do they call it, the fourth wall?
Right. Well,
It's
you're more removed because there's other people involved, right? Like
yeah,
in some ways that's a good thing because you know you have like the performances of actors can surprise you or
right.
whatever, but it does also mean yeah, like a comic is so directly from the person, and that's really cool.
And there's
Um,
nowhere to hide, right? Like you said, the
yeah.
actors can give a certain portrayal.
Yeah. I think what you just said about your own work, it has something interesting to me because like, one of the things that I think about is like this book that I just did is not properly autobiographical, but kind of autobiographical. You know, it's like slice of life at least. It's realistic.
Yeah,
But the characters are really into horror movies, and I really love horror movies, and I do feel like horror and science fiction can be really interesting ways to explore things that are very personal.
same.
Um, like I still like racking my head about directors and like Jordan Peele, I feel like has gotten like more personal and weird with each movie, and I think each of his movies has been better than the last movie.
Yeah.
You know, because it like Nope is just like there's more to just like ponder about it. It's like an odder movie than Get Out, but it's so like infinitely like complex and interesting, you know, while doing something that's like exciting and has that
Yeah,
Twilight Zone vibe
because
too, you know?
that really, like we were talking about, the dynamic between the sister and the brother, and
Yeah,
even their neighbor with Stephen Yeun's
yeah,
character.
yeah,
Like he talks a little bit about himself as a child actor and how what is a monster and how monsters are viewed, right? They could
yeah.
be right in your face and kind of tied into him. So I'm gonna spoil it for folks who've never seen it, where you have the alien craft in the cloud that's been there the whole time. and he hasn't recognized it, but it's so close and it's right
Yeah.
there. And then what is it? Is it what kind of alien? We've never seen an alien like that before. Is it a human? I mean, is it a living, breathing organism? Like they said, is this he sees us as his victim rather than you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
whole dynamic is really, really. I mean, I like his movies too, but I really, like you said, I like this latest one in note because of that other the other dynamics thrown in, and it's not just about beating up someone, stabbing someone, chasing them. It's kind of like, oh, what am I looking at? What's
Yeah,
happening?
I feel like people often like to feel smarter than the story, and be like, "Oh, I get it. It's about this." And like I feel like the best stories often have a lot to unpack, like these are totally different movies, but I feel like Up, the Pixar movie, and
Mm,
Nope, those two one-word titles, and they both just have these things that are like this feels like a metaphor, but I can't confidently be like, here's what it's a metaphor for, X equals
right.
Y. It's like this is like leaving me with something to think about, even very different genres and tones and audiences.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I love the oddball characters he throws in there, like the
Yeah.
older filmmaker, and then the guy from was it Fries?
Oh yeah,
The
yeah,
I
yeah.
just because he was like a throwback to my 80s and 90s movies, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he purposely did that, but I was like, oh my God, I love that character so much.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Because he was so oddly too familiar with them right upon meeting them. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah, well, I feel like that is such a good example of like, um, you don't need too much to make these characters feel really specific, and that's something I try to do with my own characters too, right? You're
For
like, okay,
sure.
like,
What?
can we have like one page of this guy, and you be like, oh, I get that guy's deal,
Yeah,
but also he's not like a stereotype. He's like a unique, weird guy.
exactly. Exactly. No, I think with I don't, I still make my horror comic book, my zombie comic book,
Yeah,
but I try to throw characters in like that, like, oh, I kind of recognize this person, but he's kind of a little different. He's not the stereotype. And I definitely want to make people laugh while the zombies are eating and killing
yeah,
people. So there's that piece of, his horror genre that I love too. Like at any moment you're gonna crack up laughing, especially with Kiki Palmer. Like that
yeah.
was amazing. And
Yeah,
I
that's a
really
good example of how an actor really like kind of changes the center of a movie a little bit, where she's just so like magnetic and fun.
she's
Um,
always got I wonder if how much of that is written. Some of those one-liners or some of the
yeah, I
things
don't
that
know.
it's just like, oh my, like you said, like you can't take your eyes off of her and then just the way she even presents a line when she
Yeah.
started singing her intro to the film crew. I was like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
so amazing.
And
I don't know if go ahead.
I do think that's like a cool thing about your work, that you're like using a genre that is like there's so many zombie stories, right? But you're bringing your own perspective and energy to it that's making it really like personal.
Yeah, and I like horror that has comedy in it. So this
Yeah.
latest issue, I mean, I'm not trying too hard to be funny, but there's some stuff that I find funny. Something there's got to be someone else that finds this
Yeah.
just as hilarious as I do.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of making comics, right?
Yeah. Um, I don't know if I should say this publicly because I don't know if I'm going to do it, but there's a in this area there's a 5 minute or less horror film festival,
Oh shoot.
and I'm like, I could make a 5 minute movie, right? Like
Yes.
I don't know if I'll be able to do it in time for the festival,
I'm
but
here for
that's
it.
one
I'm
way,
here. I
yeah.
want to encourage you to do it.
Well, maybe you should come down here and we can make some horror together.
For sure. I'm totally full of stupid ideas.
That's the
Like, Amy, why did I listen to you?
but
Oh.
that's also like I think part of what's interesting about making stories is that it's like on the one hand I really believe in structure, and a lot of like um I feel like the thing that I'm most proud of about my book is that I think the plot structure is actually pretty complicated because there's like a lot of characters, and they
Nice.
all started in one place and ended in another, and just like making all those landings stick is like it's a very like structural logic brain kind of thing to do, but
Yeah.
also fundamentally that sort of like irrational emotional part of you that has the weird idea is like what makes your story interesting and special, so it's like wedding those two sides or something.
That's exactly where I am right now with my latest issues. Oh my
Really.
God. I divided my characters up in two locations. They have to make sense to get back together. and then I'm adding whole bunch of new characters, and it all has to make sense. So you're just like, oh my God, I have to structure this, and like you said, tie it all back in to the main story. So that is that's a challenge, but it's the other side of your brain too.
Yeah.
But all right, I'm gonna try to wrap this up in maybe one or two more questions. So I've been just buying a bunch of art supplies and reviewing them for
Hmm.
Patreon and YouTube. What is one art supply or something that you've been using that you just love and you have to have? Is there anything in particular, maybe a new discovery even?
Yeah, can I say a digital thing?
Sure, of course.
There's a program called Rebelle, which is spelled like REB. Let me make sure I'm spelling it right. Yeah, it's a REBELLE, like like
Okay,
a Belle and Beauty and the Beast, but if you
right.
had to do it again, Rebelle. And it's designed for stimulating traditional media. And so I really love like big brush sumi textures. Like when I'm working traditionally, I like using these like big paint brushes, you know?
Nice.
And so it's like a way to simulate that digitally. So if I can capture some of that quality that I don't think in like Procreate or Clip Studio or these programs that people typically use, you can get something that looks that much like real watercolor or real oil. And obviously, it's great to actually do that on paper and get your hands dirty. But when I'm making a lot of comic pages, that's not always practical. So
Right.
finding a way to like get that personality that I want in there is really nice, you know.
Sweet. So does it just allows you to replicate your stroke, or does it actually just have all those nibs in the program already?
Yeah, it has like their own brushes that are like designed for like these ones, this one's like a sumi brush and this one's like this
Okay.
kind of paintbrush or whatever. And
Sweet.
it yeah, and there's more expensive programs that do some of that, but this one is like cheap, relatively cheap, and it's like always on sale, so
Nice.
it's pretty good. It's just desktop. I wish you could get for iPad, but
No, I love it. That's great. I mean,
it's
I'm still a traditional girly. I just bought these black acrylic markers. I'm gonna be
oh
reviewing
cool.
these. Shout out to my YouTube page.
Yeah, right.
But I just love traditional stuff. So it's great to
Yeah.
actually hear about digital stuff that I'm slowly teaching myself. So it's REBELLE.
Yeah, yeah, I think you might dig it. It's an interesting like balance to find, you know, because like it's that I wouldn't use that program to draw a whole comic. I'm sure someone would, but it's like it's a little cumbersome for that. But if you just want like sometimes I just want like some messy brush strokes in there. I want some of
Okay.
like that like grit that you it's hard to get digitally otherwise, you know. Um, but yeah, I would like to do more traditional stuff again. I don't have the best space for it right now, but I used to always have my hands covered in ink, and I do miss that.
Nice.
I've been wanting to try those Posca markers and really go ham
Well,
with those. Yeah.
hopefully this year I'll do a Oakland Creates fundraiser and we'll have artists come and make some stuff in person
Oh,
traditionally.
cool.
That would be cool. Next question. Do you oh, what was I gonna say? Do you have one specific challenge that you've ran into making your latest graphic novel?
I think the moments that were hardest for me, aside from just, I guess the short answer is just physical challenges, because like the more pages you're doing, the more just being like this all day starts
Yeah.
to, you know, and like not as young as I used to be, right? It's only gonna get worse. Um, but the other thing was just like having those like forest for the trees moments, you know, like
Mm,
I had a point where I was just like, is this character design terrible? Because the whole book was like the same characters for like 100 pages, and then there was a new character that was suddenly on every page, and like I knew that because I had written the whole story, right? But suddenly I really had to draw her over and over again,
wow.
and I was like, crap, does this design work? And I like got a friend to just like get on a call with me real quick, and I just like ran some of the drawings by them, and they gave me a few notes, but overall they were like, you're fine, it looks fine. You're like, okay, I
Cool.
just I feel like it's easy to be your own worst critic sometimes.
It's tough when you feel like, oh, like when you realize I gotta draw this over and over and over. And yeah, you're not sure. And I made the mistake of putting tattoos on a couple
Classic,
characters.
yeah.
Oh, now I gotta draw these tattoos and remember what arm did I put this on?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I gave one character tattoos, and every time I had to draw them, I was like,
exactly.
Sorry.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up with what do you have coming up next? Did you want to talk about any in-person events? Do you have something, another project, something online?
Yeah, I think that the book is the big thing I have to kind of like publicly talk about right now. So that's
Sweet.
coming out May 20th from Scholastic. You can get it at your local bookstore or wherever comics and graphic novels are sold.
Perfect. I'll put all that in the description box for folks.
Awesome. And yeah, I guess I'll probably be up in the Bay next month, I think, doing an event for Bay Area peeps, but I don't have the deets yet, so I'll let you know.
And you want to shout out your social media at all?
Yeah, sure. I am my website. I have a new kids website, so that's fun. Is canetoons.com, KANETOONS. And on what are they called? Instagram. There we go. And
There we go.
the one that's like the yellow orange box that makes people sad. Instagram and Blue Sky. I'm Kane Icarus Lynch, which is KANEICARUSLYNCH. Probably should have something shorter. That would be smart, but that's where I'm at.
Nice. No, I'll put all that good stuff in the description. Thank you so much for spending time. Let me chat you up. You know, love your work.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate you so much. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me for this. I appreciate your work and everything you do for the scene. It's really great.
Sweet, sweet.